Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Long time ago, in a kingdom, lived a king by the name Pradyumna. He had 4 daughters, and when it was time to get them married, he arranged a Swayamvara. In ancient India, a Swayamvara is an occasion where the girl is invited to choose a boy of her choice among many suitable boys. So King Pradyumna invited many young, handsome, brave princesses and kings to a Swayamvara. The 3 daughters were easily married. The last daughter, Charumati, was the tough nut. She used to reject the princes by calling them names. Oh, you are a short one. Your complexion is dark. Look at your ears. They are like elephants. She would make fun of them and then reject them. This worried King Pradyumna very much. He said, what would happen of my daughter? Will she ever get married? So he called all his wise ministers and said, please go around the kingdom and the neighboring kingdoms and invite the most talented, handsome and brave princes and kings for a Swayamvara. They went around searching and inviting the best kings and princesses. When the day arrived, Charumati was decked like a real princess. As she entered the hall, there were princesses and kings sitting on the left and the right side, and there was the King Pradyumna in the middle. She would walk up to a prince and look at him and say, oh, you don't look like a king, you look like a normal soldier. It started again. And one of those kings was considered the most handsome, the wisest, and the most brave. Charumati walked up to him and said, you are Nakeshwara, the long-nosed one. You are Nakeshwara Raja. And she laughed at him. King Pradyumna got enraged at this behavior of his daughter. Everybody else walked out of the assembly. Feeling insulted, King Pradyumna at that point declared, tomorrow morning, the first guy to be entering or to be seen at the gates of the palace will be married to my daughter. Everybody was shocked, including Princess Charumati. She felt, my dad is angry. He may not do something like this. The guards were instructed to catch hold of the first guy who is seen at the gates. The young prince, who was called the Nakeshwara Raja, had heard this declaration of King Pradyumna. So the next morning, he disguised himself as an old, sick beggar, all in tatters, with a begging bowl, as he walked up to the gates of the palace. As the guards were instructed, they straight took that old beggar to King Pradyumna. The king called all his family members, ministers, and Princess Charumati and said, Princess, this is your husband, and you are going to spend the entire life with him. She was shocked. Everybody else was also. Before anybody could realize what happened, a quick marriage was arranged and it was time to leave. So the beggar took his wife and started walking towards his village. they kept on walking. It was a long and arduous journey. Whenever they felt tired, they would sit and the beggar would go and beg for some food and they would share the food and they would continue the journey. After 2 days, they reached the neighboring kingdom. While walking, they saw some beautiful orchards full of juicy fruits. They were very hungry. So Charumati asked her husband, "Who do these orchards belong to?" By the time the name of Nakeshwara Raja had spread across, nobody would believe that such a handsome man was called names. So Charumati's husband said, "Oh, this orchard belongs to Nakeshwara Raja." They kept walking. Soon they saw a huge palace, very big, and the beggar felt they would get nice food for both of them. So he said, "Let's go to the palace." And they walked towards it. She said, "Who does this palace belong to?" And the old man said, "Oh, this is the great Nakeshwara Raja's palace." She felt conscious. But there was no choice. So they kept walking. They entered the palace and the old man said, "You be seated here in the corner. I'll try and get some food," and went away. As she was sitting there, she was wondering, did I make a mistake by rejecting the young, handsome prince? Else I would have been the queen in the same palace, enjoying those juicy fruits from the orchard. As she was thinking, she saw a very royal person walking towards her. When she saw him, it was the same Nakeshwara Raja. She was so embarrassed, she covered her face. And when the young man came to her and said, "Lady, what are you doing?" She said, "I am just waiting for my husband." And he said, "Are these his clothes?" And she looked at them. Yes, they were his clothes. And she looked up. It was indeed the king Nakeshwara Raja. Over to you.